Welcome to the Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. I'm Alex Mahajer, and on this week's episode, the recall efforts that are set to fail against the governor growing in popularity, plus infrastructure, kids, the assault on voting rights, and much, much more. All of this week on the Read Down. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Mahajer. Welcome to the Read Down. And on this week's episode, it's just family tonight. It's our last day before summer break. The Read Down is having its season finale. We're going on summer break. We're taking a month off, and this is our last episode. So it's just family tonight. So I'd like to welcome to the broadcast my co-hosts, Ebony Murphy-Root.
Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday and happy summer break for the Read Down. It's like the Read Down summer break.
Hiatus.
I even wore a tank top. A hiatus, if you will. Good to see you, Ebony, and of course, the inimitable Jonathan Welch.
Good evening. I want to play See You in September, but we'll be back before September.
We'll be back in July. We're taking a break. We need it. We've been doing this since before the 2020 election every week, and we got through the election, the 7-day wait for the results. We got through the Georgia election, the insurrection, the impeachment, the inauguration, the Senate, and we got through the majority of the COVID-19 stimulus package, and it's brought us right up here to today. And although there's a lot going on, we felt like, namaste, time for a break.
That's right. Everybody needs a break.
It's true. I mean, like when I recite back all those events of the year, it's like I just got exhausted in real time. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, that was only like 9 months worth of stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, feels like a decade, but we're here. And we're going to give you guys the Read Down. And it's just that time of the week. It's the weekly Read Down. This is where we cover all of the latest hot topics and current events. And sort of at the top of everyone's minds this week, or at least Jonathan Welch's, who does this outline. But I trust Jonathan Welch as being at the top and has got his fingers on the pulse of the political zeitgeist. Kids 12 to 15 can now get the Pfizer vaccine. Today, the FDA authorized it, and the CDC director has urged parents to let kids take that vaccine, which is sort of happening at the same time as we're learning that the vaccine demand is slowing and that the supply is outpacing the demand in lots of ways. Although right here in Los Angeles County, we're hearing that we might have herd immunity by July. And that we in California have the lowest new infection rate in the continental United States. So what are your guys' thoughts on this and this sort of controversial idea of getting more younger people taking that vaccine?
I'm super excited about the youths being vaccinated. It's very hard for them to stay 3 feet apart. I think there is still a possibility that young folks can get the virus. And I think just increasing the vaccine to the young Zoomers is great news. I'm super excited, and I know some young people who are going this weekend or going next week, and their parents are taking them, and there's a lot of enthusiasm in my little corner of the world.
Yeah, you're a teacher, Ebony. So I mean, I'm curious, just your perspective on this. What your thoughts are in surveying the youths themselves, and do they have a different attitude about the vaccine than maybe older people do?
Yeah, I have one vaccine hesitant young student. The rest are excited to get the vaccine, and I haven't heard any of the same fears that older people worry about. So they're going this weekend. Their parents are taking them. They're excited to maybe get a little closer than 3 feet apart, which I said It's hard for them. I had to break up some 8th grade boys who were roughhousing. And when I said, you guys can't roughhouse at school, they're like, it's okay, Ebony. We quarantine together. We're in the same bubble. And I'm like, that is not the point. You still cannot beat each other up or be this close, even if you are in the same bubble. So
they're like, this is my podmate right here. And you're like, stay with me, kiddo. Jonathan, thoughts on this and on just this welcome news about the success of California's and LA County's vaccine rollout in terms of the numbers having gone so significantly down.
Yeah, it's a really great turn of events, seeing as how I think we complained a lot, especially on this broadcast, about how things were not going so well for Los Angeles, for a while, and how there was a lot of information that was going through different channels, and we just weren't getting information as clearly as we were hoping in the days of the pandemic. So now to see that all the work that the Californians have put in order to control the pandemic over here, and that here in LA we're doing such a good job of being vaccinated, it's such a wonderful thing, and it's a really great feeling to live here. I always talk about back home in Massachusetts, and I can tell you that when I was back home in Massachusetts visiting in April, which was just last month. What month is it? I don't even know. Where am I? April. When I was there, I have friends who are a little bit older than me, and their kids are a little bit older. Their kids are in that 12 to 15 bracket. And so they are actually really excited about the fact that family gatherings and any kind of outing that they might do, they don't have to worry about their kids. And not only that, but they don't have to worry as much about the vaccine hesitant or even the vaccine deniers who are in their families, because if their kids are taken care of, then they feel that much more secure. So it's just getting us to a number that I think we all feel better at, because kids can still get this. I mean, Ebony, because and I just whacked my headphone out of my ear. That's great. But because you're working at a school, kids can still get this. And this is something that if we can just control that a little bit more, then the end is even closer in sight.
I'm not a scientist. I fancy myself one sometime. That was it. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientist, but I wonder if, because, we got hit really hard here in California and LA County, particularly at one point, I believe the figure was 1/3 of all Angelenos had contracted the COVID-19 coronavirus. So I wonder if part of the low new infection rates is that we've got about 37%, or right now 37. What's the national average? It's 37% of the population fully vaccinated. And if LA County is in keeping or exceeding that rate, that means 1/3 of the rest have already had it. So there's some general immunity in that population. So maybe we're achieving closer to herd immunity numbers, but we're not going to get there unless y'all get vaccinated. So go there. You can get them right now. You don't even have to wait. You don't have to make an appointment. There are sites all over the county of Los Angeles where you can just roll up. There was one literally a block from my house today, a block at the park across the street. Or they set up a COVID vaccine distribution site, and there was no one in line. So get out there, get the vaccine. Let's get this over with. And that's what's going on with COVID-19. We do have some breaking news this evening, which is that HR 1, which was the Voting Rights Act that passed in the House of Representatives and was in hearing today in committee in the U.S. Senate, has advanced to the Senate floor for an up or down vote. Now, this is sort of surprising that Democrats are moving this, because we know for a fact that it's going to get killed by Republicans, and that we don't have the 60-vote supermajority to overcome the filibuster in the Senate, because certain folks like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema won't move to eliminate or reform the filibuster. So this incredibly important piece of voting rights legislation has advanced out of committee. What are your guys' thoughts on this, and what's the Democratic move here? Why do you think this is happening?
Okay. This is the thing that keeps me up at night, because this is, I think, the most important piece of legislation that we've seen, that we will see in this entire administration. Because basically, if we don't preserve our democracy, if we don't do what we can in order to uphold and save our democracy, then we have nothing. Then we can't fight anything. We can't fight climate change. We can't fight our racial reckoning, the issues that we have around that. We can't fight anything internationally. We can't do anything with the economy. We can't function if we don't do this. So this is something that I find just incredibly stressful. It's incredibly stressful to me that they wouldn't at least try to change the rules of the filibuster, which is something that Joe Manchin and I'm sure Kyrsten Sinema, although I read an article in the 19th today where they basically said that she's an enigma who doesn't, people don't know what she's thinking, people don't know what she's up to, and they don't know what her motivations are. And she's very mysterious, even to her constituents. Like, people just don't have a good handle on her. But I would like to think that she would also kind of go along with some of those structural changes around the filibuster to make it harder and make it more traditional before advancing the most important piece of legislation. So I simply don't know, but I have clearly a lot of feelings on it. And now I'll yield the floor to Ebony.
Well, I read this afternoon that President Biden...
The gentleman will suspend.
President Biden called in both Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema for a one-on-one conversation. And so I think this is a good thing. I also think about Sinema that we need to, do a better job when we elect these people who are, bipartisan and beyond the, the binary, that we really need to find out what their ideologies are. The reason she's an enigma is that she has no ideology, no morals, no sense of what her plan is for her tenure, for her 6 years in the Senate. And now we're stuck with her for like several more years. So I hope that, before we elect a person like this who, she's been here, she's been there, that we, find out, are these people going to be on our side, or are they just going to be a Dem, we had the blue dogs and the yellow dogs. These people are useless to us. We spend so much energy trying to see what's Joe Manchin going to do? What's Kyrsten Sinema going to do? That even when we're in the majority, purportedly, we can't move forward. So I'm hoping that we, rein these folks in and have them act like Democrats.
As Lester Aponte, a Stonewall president, says, I'm sure the phrase "come on, man" will be uttered. That was my best Biden impression. Come on, man. I'm not that good.
Come on, man.
No, oh, come on. That was terrible, Jonathan.
Come on, man.
I do a really good Bernie Sanders, though.
Do you?
Yeah, but you have to tell me something to say. We start a revolution. Sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Anyway, thanks for that, Lester. Holly Atkinson saying, P.S. Putin. I think you mean that Putin controls the puppet strings that control the Republican Party?
Yeah, there's that. There's certainly that. But I want to go back to the idea about...
Well, hold on, Jonathan. Before you do that, put a pin in that, because I have a clip. I have a clip for you. This is Senator Joe Manchin talking about the necessity of passing this voting rights legislation just yesterday. And yet you are holding up the legislation because of your own tactical inability to do what? But what are you going to say, Jonathan?
A totally different thing, because now I have to react to that. But, I think that I don't doubt that Joe Manchin wants to do the right thing, right? I think that there are a lot of people, especially on the left, on the far left, who get really upset with Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin, in his history as a senator, has never stood in the way of Democratic Party progress. He's never done it. He's always, when push comes to shove, when the vote comes to the floor, he has always voted the way that we would want him to vote. I think that he fundamentally understands that we're at a pivotal moment where we actually have to move on this stuff. I just don't necessarily think that he's putting the effort or he's putting the spotlight where it needs to be. Like, I think he's taking the spotlight away. Like, it's more now about, like, what's Manchin going to do? What's Sinema going to do? What are these, you know, renegade Democrats who are more like conservative Democrats, what are they going to do? When really the conversation should be around, this goes back to the point that I was going to make, that memory is coming back, that Mitch McConnell said that anything that Democrats put forward, that the Biden administration puts forward, that the Democratic Senate puts forward, he will kill. He will stop it. He will do everything that he can. That's his main job. He's obstructionist in chief. He doesn't care about anything else. So you got that guy on that side. Well, that's really where the pressure needs to be applied, because I think when push comes to shove, we'll have 50 votes on this thing, because I know that Sinema probably also feels that too. I mean, she was elected by the skin of her teeth. And things have gotten a little bit better for Democrats in Arizona, but God only knows what's going to happen now. You know, so I think they get it. They understand it. But the focus and the pressure needs to be placed on the other side. And that's where we need to be putting all of our effort. And that's where the light needs to shine, not on Joe Manchin.
Well, and here is Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell talking about his desire to obstruct this voting rights legislation and claiming that it is actually bad for elections and democracy. Mitch McConnell, our favorite.
Last autumn, voters made a decision the Democrats liked a lot better. Suddenly, their side stopped calling our democracy broken. Now, our democracy was beyond reproach. But curiously enough, the Democrats still want the exact same sweeping bill just as desperately. The truth is quite simple. Our democracy is not in crisis, and we aren't going to let one party take over our democracy under the false pretense of saving it.
We're not going to let the Democrats take our democracy. Anyway, sorry. That's my Mitch McConnell.
That's my Mitch McConnell.
Not turtle shame.
Stop turtle shaming.
I know. I just wish that he'd go back into his shell and roll into the sea, but that's... Or just return to the sea.
Under the sea. There is a musical parody waiting to happen.
Oh, boy. You know, I feel like enough gaslighting already. Like, it's not political. Not everything is political, right? Like, you frame it as though it's this big political thing. Mitch McConnell, I mean, is the you in this situation. And it's like, it's not. It's just a matter of policy. They've gotten so far away from ever caring about policy that the only thing that they can think about is, you know, is framing things in a political point of view.
Well, speaking of political point of view, Jonathan, and kind of going back to the topic of kids, which really kicked off this conversation, the kids get the vaccine. While on the topic of kids, Facebook wants to create an Instagram for kids. More than 40 state attorneys. That was a terrible segue. I do my best. But you know what? It's summer break. We're almost there. More than 40 state attorneys general have pushed back against a social media platform no one asked for kids. Thoughts? I mean, Ebony, I'm looking at you particularly. Should chillins have access to Instagram? Thoughts?
They already do, and they are not going to want some special kid Instagram. They don't want to be anywhere where adults are like, this is the special place for you. So they've got Snapchat, they've got TikTok, and they probably have some new thing that we don't even know about, and they're not going to sign up for this like special kid platform. So it's cute. It sounds like something a bunch of septuagenarians and octogenarians would come up with, but that's not what young people want. It's cute though. Nice try.
They're like, for kids, thanks a lot. No thanks.
This is
Nickelodeon.
This is slightly unrelated. But I thought of Ebony today because I've been listening to a lot of 60s music because that's like my springtime thing. Just boost my mood a little bit. And I remembered when I was in elementary school, we used to do a last day of school assembly with all the teachers, and all the teachers would like get up and they would like lip sync and dance to oldies, including like Hot Sun in the Summertime, like songs like that. And I was like, I wonder if Ebony would ever do something like that with her kids.
We get boba on the last day of school, and we do a countdown to school's out, and we're probably still going to do that. There's usually music. They have really good music at our school. We've got kind of like an alley in the back, and they get like cool right now music. So I don't think they realize how lucky they are to be growing up.
They're hip, like today music.
They are. They have like a DJ, and like there's, you know, music cranking through the alley. Every once in a while, it'll be like some kid's famous parent. So that's always interesting. I always wonder if it's like weird for them. But yeah. I don't know. Like, and for most of us, I don't think they would know. It'd be like our 2000s music, our late 90s music. It'd be like, you know, like Semi-Charmed Life or something. I don't know.
Oh my God, it
like,
is. Or like
that, my friend.
I was thinking of How Bizarre. That was like the summer hit of 1997. So that would be like analogous to.
So nostalgic. You guys remember those Now That's What I Call Music CDs?
Yeah.
Certainly purchase and then download and burn to CDs off of Napster. I would download those CDs, and it's just like, you know, Chumbawamba, Tub Thumper.
My God.
Matchbox 20.
So that's what they would listen to. That's their thing. That would be the equivalent. And then they would film this and put this on kids' Instagram.
You know what? I think that probably, Ebony, you're right. Kids aren't going to want to use a kid's Instagram, but assuming that they would use it, it is maybe a little deleterious to our society. And Instagram is already really harmful and sort of what it promotes in terms of body image and creating these presentations that are hard enough for adults to sift through and parse out and differentiate from and find our own self-worth, when we have a constant barrage of imaging that's telling us that we're not good enough because we don't look like this or wear this clothing or travel to this location or have this kind of money. So I think it could be really harmful. And then, you know, watch the Social Dilemma if you want to know just how insidious the algorithm-based nature of the way these apps and platforms work are. So altogether, bad idea. I support the attorneys general who are fighting back against this. But in a different type of kid-related news, and this was all Jonathan Welch's segue, more on kids. This time in the justice system, our very own district attorney here in Los Angeles County, George Gascon, has announced that kids won't be prosecuted as adults in LA. So that's welcome news. He ran, and he's the Stonewall endorsed candidate, and he ran on a platform. He appeared on the Stonewall Spotlight podcast. He ran on a very progressive platform and promised these kinds of reforms, and he's delivering on them. And I'll note that the same Republican conspiracy theorists and Trump supporters and election deniers and COVID-19 deniers who are backing the Republican recall in the state are also backing an attempt to recall George Gascon for making good on the promises that he made and that he was elected to make good on. What are your guys' thoughts on this announcement that kids won't be prosecuted as adults in LA and on George Gascon's performance on the whole?
I have strong feelings about this. I mean, anybody who grew up around rich white kids knows that they never get in trouble for anything. So basically this just means working class kids and kids of color will like not get in trouble in the same way that rich white kids don't get in trouble for the crazy things that they do. The only kids who get tried as adults are, you know, poor kids of color. So great. If you're a kid, then you're not adult and you should be in a special kid system where, you know, there is room for you to rehabilitate yourself before adulthood. We should not be ruining people's lives when they're 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, or 17 because you can't vote. You can't even live on your own. So how could you be tried as an adult? That makes perfect sense for me. I don't think Gascon's been perfect, but he's not done anything that he didn't tell us he was going to do when he was campaigning. So this is good for me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's perfect when they take office, and I think that, like, you know, there are a lot of different things that we have to judge the totality of the person. And like Ebony said, you know, I mean, he has made good on these promises that he made, and he's continuing to evolve. He's continuing to find new ways to reform LA County and reform, you know, the justice system here within our area that I find inspiring. And I think that, no matter what, you're always going to have these right-wing groups that, and I know we're going to talk about this in a moment with recall efforts, but you're going to have these right-wing groups that are just going to try to relitigate an election. And it's the gaslighting. It's like they're coming out there saying this about us and how we felt when we were like impeaching Donald Trump. Well, we were impeaching Donald Trump for crimes that were committed during his time in office, because while he was in office, he committed crime. So it's not about relitigating the election at that point, but what they're trying to do is seriously relitigate an election that already happened, or just they can't wait until the next time. The only thing that these people care about is power. So they're going to come for all the elected officials on our side, and we just have to be strong enough to withstand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think absolutely, it's a power grab as per the usual. And sort of like on a related note, I don't know if you guys heard, just with regards to the justice system, because we've talked a lot about police reform on this broadcast. Obviously, we support it. Everyone on this panel supports deeply reimagining our system of policing, both here in LA County and nationwide. That the Louisville Police Department released a report today in their investigation into the shooting of Breonna Taylor last March, and found that the police officers violated department protocol by opening fire, that they shouldn't have, that the protocol was to not, and that violation of protocol resulted in Breonna Taylor's death. And I thought that was really, she was shot 6 times, 32 shots were fired, and her boyfriend fired 1 shot, and the police used that as their justification for firing 36 shots into the apartment that they basically were entering without a knock. And he believed they were intruders because there was no announcement or one that they were aware of. And so we're learning today, even more about Breonna Taylor's death, and that it wasn't an unjustified killing. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Ebony. Sorry.
The lack of care that these departments have when they go into certain neighborhoods just needs to be fixed. You would not go into the Palisades or Santa Monica or Beverly Hills, just half-cocked and shooting people. So give everybody that same level of care. I don't understand what's so difficult about treating everybody as if, they're human. It shouldn't be that hard.
It's the role of police. What is the role of police? Let's break that down. Let's deconstruct what that actually is. And I think that, what we would like to see in that role are people who are part of the community, helping to keep their communities safe and having a fundamental understanding of their own communities. And that's what that's kind of where it should be. And it should be, unarmed people and people who are professionals out there to help the citizens of that area. Instead, what we have are forces of people who, especially in some of these lower income areas or urban areas or, more diverse areas, people coming in who do not belong to those communities, who are from another place, who view the people who live in those communities as, as the enemy. They're pushing them up against the wall. They're trying to destroy the enemy. I mean, it's so clear, and it's we see all of these killings happen constantly, and it's well, this is because the culture of the police department is such that they are not there to protect these folks who they're supposed to protect. They're there to engage in combat against these people, and it's so unbelievably unfair. And that's what we scream about and we cry about, is that needs to change. And that's a deep culture that I don't even know where to begin.
Well, hopefully with a Justice Department who is going into these local police departments and investigating their practices to see whether they're violating civil rights laws, and that's a great first step. But this needs to happen, and I've said this, and we've talked about this. This needs to happen on a local community level. Yeah. Communities need to advocate for their communities. If you're a leader in your community, you need to be leading the charge on this. You need to be going to your board of supervisors meetings, to the LA, to your city council meetings, and you need to be speaking up and requesting that they review and change the way their city polices and chip away at the system. Has to happen in localities from the bottom up. And the Justice Department doing that, it can start. I mean, they can maybe put some band-aids on the problem, but this is a root issue that's got to get solved from the root. In other news, Governor Gavin Newsom, who we on the Read Down have affectionately nicknamed the Gavinator, has delivered aid in the form of relief checks to Californians. So the Golden State Stimulus Package is the largest of its kind in U.S. history on a state level. $600 checks are going to be going out to Californians who make $75,000 a year or less. Thoughts on this and the fact that the aid is coming as Gavin Newsom's approval ratings are up amid the reopening and low COVID numbers?
Keep the stimulus coming. Give the people the money. They'll spend it locally. I am fine with it. Make it rain. Just pretend it's corporate welfare, but for the citizens.
That's right. That's right. I think.
Here's your stimulus checks.
It was either Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren who said that Republicans engage in socialism, but for corporations, but for the wealthy. And so we really need to invest that money into people. 2 in 3 Californians are going to get a check. That's incredible. That's something that was completely unexpected, but I think the timing couldn't be better because, of course, Newsom is facing this recall effort, and the recall effort is in incredibly bad faith from Republicans who are just here, again, to try to relitigate that. As Lester says, $600 for 2 out of every 3 Californians. I mean, that is just incredible. There are a lot of people we know who are going to get this money, and they certainly deserve it. So it's going to do a lot to help everyday Californians. Also, the governor announced today that he's creating a new cleanup campaign throughout the state of California, in which they're going to clean up trash and they're going to install art. This is like FDR kind of public works stuff, and it's just a really cool idea that's not only going to make California look better, especially along our freeways and along our roads, but it's also going to create 15,000 jobs. So I think that approval rating is just going to go up, 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 up.
Yeah, bring back the alphabet soup programs. Let's go. That's one of the things that I remember from middle school is the AA, the CCC, and all those great programs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we don't have to do it federally. We can prove that we can create a model in which the state can do it. So it's kind of really great.
Yep. Amen. Hallelujah. And, this is coming as Governor the Gavinator. His latest polling shows that he has an approval rating at about 52%. And those who approve of the recall effort, 36%. So these aren't great numbers for people who are hoping to recall the governor because he has a majority of support. And when Governor Gray Davis got recalled back in 2001, 2002, 2003, one of those early 2000 years, I was just a child. He had, I believe, an approval rating hovering in the low 30s. So it's a different political picture. And the state, the reason that these $600 stimulus checks are going out to Californians is because the state has a projected budget surplus in California. So where exactly are you finding the fault here? Where exactly do you feel like he's not rising to the occasion? It's hard to define Gavin Newsom as having been a failure when he is clearly succeeding. But what are your guys' thoughts on this Republican recall campaign, and what can we do to help?
It just looks sillier and sillier. But if they want to continue to spend their money, we're going to have to spend a little bit to fight back against it. But after, when, there's a clear show of support for our governor with the good hair, I think we'll be able to move forward. So Caitlin and whoever else wants to run, let's bring it, and then we'll vote, and we'll keep Gavin.
Gavin with the good hair. Sorry.
I actually think that this is like strengthening his campaign, his re-election campaign in a lot of ways. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but like, you know, we have to get through this recall, right? Like we are going to actually see ballots that are mailed to our homes, or if, you know, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be structured by that time, but within the next few months, we are going to have to vote, and we're going to have to convince everyone we know to also vote and make sure that we stop it. Alex, you're asking, how do we stop it? Jane Wishon, who's our political vice president here at Stonewall, actually talked to us about this the other night. StopTheRepublicanRecall.com is where you go in order to take a look at all of the resources that are available in order to fight back against this. I mean, this is terrible and wasteful, and I've complained about this on our broadcast a lot, that it could cost up to $400 million. It's not likely to, because the recall is not looking good for Republicans, which is good, and we want to keep up that momentum and continue to fight for Gavin. But you know, it's still happening, and I think that this is also giving us a reason to get behind our governor, and giving us a reason to look at the good that he's done, and also to push him to do even better. A lot of my progressive friends want to see him go further, and that's okay. I mean, I think this public works program that he's coming up with is a really great example of how he could go further. But John Cox has a bear. Go ahead.
Michael Kubica. Michael Kubica asks, is it a war bear? Lester Aponte says, alas, no, it's not his dark materials. Jan Walker wants to fight back for Gavin. Vote! Yeah, so we posted the link to StopTheRepublicanRecall.com. You can go and visit that if you want some more information on how you can support the effort. It's a bogus recall. It's been put into place by anti-maskers, election denialists. One of the founders and chief organizers of the recall believes it's a good idea to microchip immigrants. They're anti-immigrants. The RNC has cut the recall effort a check of $250,000. Newt Gingrich, Mike Huckabee, and Devin Nunes are backing this effort, and it's going to cost the state at least $100 million, if not more. So stop the Republican recall, everyone. And also take note, you're going to get your ballots by mail. So it'll be very, very easy for you to participate. All you got to do is fill out that ballot. So we'll keep reporting on that when we come back from our little summer break here on the Read Down in early July. But till then, it's that time of the week. It's our final library session of the season. The library is open. This is our chance to read Someone for Filth, read the GOP, get on our soapbox, talk about something that's on our mind. And I'd like to start this week with none other than Jonathan Bradley Welch. Is that your middle name?
That is my middle name. Thank you so much.
Yes.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, Bradley's my middle name, named after a department store that Ebony probably remembers from New England. Not really, but it was a favorite department store of mine. Bradley's. Look it up. It was great. Anyway, I want to first of all thank both Alex and Ebony for a wonderful season of the Read Down. It's an honor to do this with you guys every week, and I'm glad that we get to take a break, but I'm excited that we'll get to come back and we'll get to see each other again very soon. I just want to express to all of you my astonishment at how much I stand Liz Cheney in the weirdest way. I don't agree with her on anything policy-wise, but just seeing how she is completely forced out of GOP leadership, and the vote hasn't happened yet as far as I know, but it will happen. It is insane to me to see all of these people who I never would have agreed with on really many policy points at all have to fight for their political lives because they are telling the truth I don't know what's going to happen to the other party. I've long advocated for some of these more sane Republicans to break off and create a conservative party that could encapsulate their principles and potentially bring in donors and bring in other candidates who could really kind of siphon some power away from the Republicans. That's something that I want to see. I don't know what will happen here, but it blows my mind more and more how if I see someone who I don't think is a really good political fit in terms of being in office, but they actually believe in democracy, then that's something where I can stand with that person. And hey, maybe that's a lesson to me. Maybe that's a lesson to everybody that we actually do have more in common than what separates us. And that might give us a little bit of hope that we actually continue to keep building bridges to people on the other side. They just don't happen to be people who are elected officials, because those people get crazier and crazier and crazier. So I guess the moral of my story here is just that if we see these people who we actually end up supporting because we just want to see that people who believe in democracy are in office, it's an incredibly low bar. That's a good place actually to start to build bridges and maybe come back from what we're seeing happen right now and annihilate the GOP as it stands.
More generous than I am being, because I honestly, Liz Cheney's political future, I couldn't care less. If they want to eat her alive, go for it. It's just it's just a reflection of what the GOP has become, which is
that's fine. You know, I'm getting into, like I said,
party of cancel culture, and
yeah. But I'm getting into 60s music more, so I'm trying to just like pretend like this is Woodstock and I'm just like happy and everybody's great and I'm just gonna love everybody. That's where I am right now. That's where I am for summer break. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you for your read, Jonathan. Ebony Murphy-Root, who would you like to read this week?
I'm not quite there yet. I'm going to read Joni Ernst.
She sucks.
For Teresa Greenfield this summer. She did not win, and so we've got Joni Ernst again. And Joni Ernst today is upset about cancel culture. So she said today, it's okay to go ahead and express what you feel is right to express. And, cancel culture is cancel culture, no matter how you look at it. Here's the problem, though. Cancel culture is not real. What you have here is you've created a party in which you are not allowed to say anything beyond the party line. And the party line right now is that we support Trump, who is the former president. So Joni Ernst and Elise Stefanik and all these other Republican women who really thought that the party valued them, valued their opinions as women, valued their leadership, they're learning now that the party doesn't GAF about you, and that this is what you have wrought with your hyperbole about political correctness and cancel culture and critical race theory that you don't even know what it is because you never cracked open the book in Poli-Sci 101. And so this is just your new scare phrase of the week. You're going to have to deal with this. And you know what? Liz Cheney is probably going to lose her seat. You're going to bring in Elise Stefanik, who is actually more moderate in terms of her voting record than Liz Cheney, but she is for some reason willing to throw all of her eggs in this Trump basket so that she
Senator Cruz.
And your party is in really tough shape, and your woman leadership, your Republican right wing but we're women thing isn't working anymore. And so you've got your years in the Senate, and maybe you're gonna back up Elise Stefanik, but I think that you have all overreached yourselves, and now this is where you are, where your whole party is behind the guy who lost bigly. And so I'm kind of really enjoying all of this, Joni Ernst and all of these people, clutching their pearls. And that's my read for the week. I can't wait to follow all of this and find out what happens during our hiatus.
Okay. Oh, I'm muted. Sorry. Yes. Amen. Hallelujah. I'm glad that you read Joni Ernst for filth, and she deserves it. And this idea of cancel culture is just sort of hilarious because they are the party of cancel culture. I, this week, would like to read a fellow GOP senator in the United States Senate, and that's none other than Ted Cruz, who really had just a slam dunk sort of day today in the U.S. Senate. As we know, there were hearings today on gun reform and on voting rights, and in both instances, he really acted like, and I'm going to use this word, and I'm just going to use it because there's not a better one, like a real asshole. He was dismissive to his colleagues. He called Democrats Jim Crow 2.0. Here's a little bit best of what Ted Cruz was up to today in the U.S. Senate.
When in fact you, Senator Cruz, not all of your colleagues here today, you were contesting the Electoral College. You were leading, one of the leaders on the effort to say that the election results were not correct. And so you wonder why we want to make sure that people have the right to vote.
That's Ted Cruz just on his phone as Amy Klobuchar reads him for filth in only the way that she knows how. And of course, here's Ted Cruz today calling the Democratic desire to pass voting rights laws Jim Crow 2.0.
You know, I listened to the speeches this morning. I listened to Senator Schumer's speech, where he recounted this country's shameful history of Jim Crow laws. And he's right. Jim Crow laws were bigoted, racist, and disenfranchised millions of people. And it is worth remembering that those Jim Crow laws were drafted by Democrats, they were implemented by Democrats, and they kept Democrats in power. Now, today's talking point, repeated in the media, is that was the Democrats of yesterday, not today. Well, today the Democrats are doing it again. This legislation, to use a phrase that has been popularized on the media recently, is Jim Crow 2.0.
And then at one point, when called out by Senator Richard Blumenthal for being disingenuous and mischaracterizing a witness's testimony, Ted Cruz just got up and walked out. So Ted Cruz, you're my shithole of the week, and you are a terrible person. I can't believe you're still elected in Congress and that your constituents think that you're somehow likable or charming or anything worthy of being in any elected office, let alone the U.S. Senate. So that this has been the Read Down. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and this has been our season finale. So we are going on hiatus. We will be back in July, but we're taking a summer break. Thank you so much for joining us and joining us ever since before the election. It's been a ride, and we'll be back. But if you're interested in learning more about the Stonewall Democratic Club, you can join us at stonewalldems.org, where for only $25 a year, you too can become a member of this wonderful organization and join our political advocacy work, help us stop the Republican recall, try to get that filibuster abolished, and all the other projects we're working on for low income people who are low income. There's a low income membership. It's only $15. So check it out, stonewalldems.org. Thank you so much to my co-hosts this week, Jonathan Welch and Ebony Murphy Root. It's just family this week. I'm Alex Mohajer. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you all after our summer break.